Hey everybody, I am just getting my slides ready. And here we go. So let's see. Do, 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 do. There we go. Paul, I haven't heard from you in ages. Hope everybody is well. Well, now that's more than one person from down under. Are we muted? Everybody is muted. Everybody is muted. I should be muted, but I'm not muted. Welcome, 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 everybody. Thanks for being here. I want to talk to you about some really big changes. Now, you may have heard about it, but I guarantee you that you're going to learn some things that you probably never learned before. So, this is all new material. I don't think that it's been seen. So here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Vindicated. I am going to share my screen, and you should see my slide with the word vindicated. And vindicated is about how keto has been right all along. And the U.S. Department of Agriculture just admitted that we were right. Now, this is really good news. We're going to go into super good detail. It's super interesting. So keep your eye on the ball. This is probably a good time to we won't be real super long. Put down your phone, unless you're watching on your phone. Don't play with social media. YouTube will be there when you get back, TikTok, etc. Let's just rock the house here. Now, after 50 years, they finally admitted that they were wrong. In 1992, they released a food pyramid with this is at the top of the pyramid, this is what you should have rarely. And down at the bottom, this is what you should have the most of. And in 2025, the new pyramid just came out with the reverse of what you should have the most of is at the top of the reverse pyramid until you go down and you get to what the least is. Let's take a look at how we got here and what it means for you. So first of all, low carb is now validated. For decades, they said a high-fat, low-carb diet would kill us. I remember when I started completely keto, I studied alternative approaches to healing. And one of the most foremost hospitals in the world is Sloan Kettering Institute in New York, where they do some of the primary research on cancer. And since keto has been linked to fighting cancer, I wanted to see what Sloan Kettering said about it. And there was a very short article by the president of Sloan Kettering who said he tried keto, he found it hard to stay on the diet, so they weren't going to study it. Okay, today the guidelines acknowledge what we've known all along. reducing carbohydrates is a legitimate healthy choice. The same authority that called keto dangerous and low carb dangerous now calls it a choice. So doctors and nutritionists are in shock. I have to tell you that the anger is real. An entire generation of medical professionals built their careers on the food pyramid. They prescribed low-fat diets to millions and millions of people. And now they must confront an uncomfortable truth. Ready? Their advice made people sicker. That's right. By following the food pyramid, people got sicker. A small group of advocates refused to accept the mainstream narrative. We were ridiculed. We were called dangerous. We were dismissed by the medical establishment. This webinar is the story of our vindication. So, part one, the great deception. How we were sold the ultimate high carb lie. So go back to the 1940s, and the first food recommendations from the USDA was called the Basic 7. And the Basic 7 was eat some food from each group every day. And you can look in, let's see if we can zoom in on that. View, yeah, I think we can zoom in on that, can we? No, we can't. We can. Okay, so we have, it's even hard for me to see. Okay, it's time to put on my computer glasses. That might help. Okay, so group 1 is grains. Group 2 is fruit and vegetables. Group 3 is potatoes and other vegetables. Group 4 is dairy products. Group 5 is meat and poultry. Group 6 is grains. And group 7 is butter and margarine. Yum, margarine. Today we know margarine as causing heart attacks, but back then that's what they did. Now look down at the bottom, there's the line. Eat the Basic 7 every day. In addition to the Basic 7, eat any other foods that you want. Wow, any other foods that I want? Candy? Sure. Potato chips? Sure. Beer and pretzels? Sure. Just as long as you eat the Basic 7, you're good. Okay, well, that's the Basic 7. Then people were confused. So they went from the Basic 7 to the 4. The milk group, where everybody should have milk every day. The meat group, the vegetable group, and the fruit group, and then the cereal group. Now, let me ask you a question. You're going to see a lot about the milk group and the cereal bread group. There's a reason for that. The dairy farmers and the wheat farmers started lobbying Congress saying, we want people to eat our products, and they started advertising it. Remember, some of the slogans for bread growing up. Uh, what was it? Wonder Bread builds bodies in 12 healthy ways. Bread, bread. The emphasis was on milk. The emphasis was on bread. And the reason was because these big lobbying groups started paying money to Congress. And that's what happened. And then we went to the food wheel. I'm surprised that I could even find the food wheel because it's so embarrassing. Here, the biggest servings are 6 to 11 servings a day of breads, grains, and cereals. The next biggest group is dairy. Then we have meats and poultry. We have vegetables, fruits, not very important. But the last two are my all-time favorites. You should have every day, look at the bottom of the chart, you should have fats and sweets, and right next to it, you should have alcohol. Wow, what a healthy diet. And of course, everybody got sicker. I mean, look at this. It's telling you to have sweets and alcohol every day. Lord, and grains. So what do you think happened to people who followed this? What do you think happened to them? They got diabetes. And their doctor, in turn, was like, well, we have no idea why they have diabetes. I'll tell you why. It's because of the food that they were told to eat. So big business won. They removed natural fats. They replaced it with cheap sugar and refined grains. They marketed it as healthy. And then they came out with all kinds of healthy products. Low-fat cookies. They were high in sugar, but they were low-fat. Fat-free yogurt, loaded with sugar. I loved this one. Do you know that a Dannon blueberry yogurt, fat-free, has as many grams of sugar as a can of Coca-Cola? I'll say that again. A Dannon fat-free yogurt, which is loaded with the fruit and the sugar down at the bottom, and you stir it up, has the exact same number of grams of sugar as a can of Coca-Cola. And then they came out with heart-healthy, sugary cereals. I remember the commercials. This was really good for big business, but it was disguised as health advice. And then came 1992. Now, honestly, this was not supposed to be the food pyramid. The food pyramid was supposed to look differently. People knew in 1992 that carbs were not what they promised to be. And the night before the other food pyramid was supposed to be passed, former Vice President Hubert Humphrey pitched a fit in the Senate and insisted on this food pyramid, which guided everyone since 1992. Look at the bottom. Look at that. Every day they wanted people to have bread, cereal, rice, and pasta, 6 to 11 servings a day. Fruit, 2 to 4 servings. Vegetables, 3 to 5 servings. Milk, yogurt, and cheese, 2 to 3 servings every day. meat, poultry, fish, dry beans, eggs, and nuts groups. They put everything in together. Your protein, 2 to 3 servings a day. Carbs good, protein bad, and then fats, oils, and sweets use sparingly. Healthy fats became the devil. This was not a health plan. It was a business plan for the grain and sugar industries, and they took off and they became absolutely powerful. And senators from Michigan became known as the senators from Kellogg. And then who put this into action? The medical school curriculum. They taught fat causes heart disease, carbs are the foundation of health, and low fat is the only science-backed diet. And doctors and dietitians were taught the high carb gospel as unquestionable truth. They became loyal soldiers in the war against the wrong enemy. And then there were a few, the keto heretics, Robert Atkins. Man, when the Atkins diet came out, people made fun of him. Eric Westman, who took over Atkins after Atkins passed away. Dr. Stephen Finney, Gary Taubes, an incredible writer. These people were professionally attacked. They were called quacks. They were dismissed because they decided to speak the truth. And people made fun of them. Unbelievable. Atkins' book went to the top of the New York Times bestseller list, and people were losing weight on Atkins. And everybody was warning them, don't do Atkins, don't do Atkins, look at Atkins. 2011, they came out with a new, more modern look. Fruits, grains, vegetables, protein, dairy. It's still the same high carb message. Grains take up 1/4 of the plate. The message remained. Carbs are essential. Fat is dangerous. And the system went into shock. How did the system go into shock? Well, there was an epidemic of curve. On the right, you see a graph. You have 2 colors of green. The dark green is obesity. The light green is severe obesity. And over the years, from the time that this was published, you could see that both obesity and severe obesity grew to incredible numbers. And of course, as we're all aware, the numbers have continued to go up. Obesity rates tripled since 1980. America said low fat, high carbs, and everyone's metabolism collapsed. The guidelines did not prevent the disease, they caused the disease. And the doctor said, hey, I'm prescribing a low-fat diet to diabetic patients. They followed the guidelines perfectly. The outcome was their blood sugar got worse, their weight increased, the doctor was confused, frustrated, angry, blamed the patients, but the patients followed the rules, but the rules of the game were wrong. And then the people started to rebel. Along came the internet. Individuals began sharing their success stories, weight loss, reversed diabetes, improved energy. And a movement grew that the medical establishment could no longer ignore. That was the keto movement. And 2025, they surrendered. The new guidelines are not a gentle evolution. They represent a surrender to overwhelming evidence. The establishment finally admitted what we've been saying for decades. Their advice was wrong. Now, keto has evolved from fat bombs to real food. Keto 1.0. People were obsessed with the fat macros. They were chasing numbers instead of nutrients. They started having fat bombs to force fat intake. They started butter in the coffee, not a problem, or MCT oil, but these people were drinking fat for fat's sake. I remember, and I don't know if you've ever seen it. But I saw pictures, I saw videos of people eating entire bars of butter, thinking that that was keto. Yeah, that was keto 1.0. It wasn't very healthy. And then, I remember this, too much protein will kick you out of ketosis. And we talked about that your protein could convert to sugar. But as we began to understand the science, protein was the goal, not the limit. It was crucial to have people feel full. It supported muscle health, absolutely essential for metabolic function. And then the vegetable renaissance. We moved beyond meat and cheese approach. We incorporated a wide variety of nutrient-dense, low-carb vegetables, essential for long-term health. We started paying attention to fiber and gut health. We started paying attention to micronutrients, and we started paying attention to the essentials: spinach, kale, broccoli, cauliflower, zucchini, asparagus, avocado. And then we learned about fat quality. Olive oil, great. Butter and ghee, great. Avocado oil, great. Coconut oil, great. If you look at the left, that's what my kitchen looks like. And we have gotten rid of everything with soybean oil, canola oil, corn oil, sunflower oil. These are all really bad for you, and they cause inflammation. Unfortunately, guess which side of the slide nearly all packaged foods use? That's right. They use the stuff that is unhealthy. And that has to change. And then this one really got me. When the big companies came in and they saw keto, they just came in. I'm going to have a lot more to say about this, but just because the label said keto didn't mean it was healthy. They used inflammatory oils. They used artificial fibers, tapioca fiber, soluble corn fiber for fat textures. They started playing games, hiding the sugar impact, and they were all highly processed with very long storage lives. And I have to tell you that when we made our bars, they had a very short storage life because they were natural. Modern keto prioritizes protein. Modern keto is fueled with healthy fat. Modern keto is nourished with vegetables. We use real food. It's sustainable. It's nutrient dense. So the path to health is keto. We have been vindicated and we are moving ahead. So we started with the Great Deception. We moved to the health collapse and vindication. Now you are the expert. You now possess knowledge that was hidden for decades. You know more about nutrition history than most, nearly all doctors. You know the history of the lie. You know, understand the science of fat. You have the power to heal. Reject the dogma. Trust the results. Your first step: get rid of sugar, grains, and seed oils from your kitchen. If it's not there, you can't eat it. Number 2, swap your morning toast and cereal with eggs and avocado. Focus on protein first at every meal. And then give it 30 days. Ignore the scale for the first week and focus on how you feel. Okay, let's see if anyone has any questions. I'm going to stop sharing. And let's come into the chat and see what we've got. Are there any questions? You could type them into the webinar chat. Don't make me think that I'm so good that there's no room for questions. Did I answer everything? Now today, I talked about, in a couple of our groups, the merry-go-round, where people get on keto for a couple of weeks. All they want to do is grab some recipes, and they think that they're doing keto, but they aren't really doing keto. They're just grabbing some recipes. They don't understand the basics of keto. They don't have any understanding of how keto works. They just want results, results, results. And that's what got us here in the first place. Look, imagine that doctors had sat down with us when we were in our 30s and said, listen, here's the way you need to eat. Here's the way that you should eat. Here's what you need to do to avoid cancer, heart disease, diabetes, and neurological problems. These are the 4 things that are killing people today. As people get older, those are the problems. But our doctors didn't do that. Only after the fact, when we had problems, did our doctors say, stop doing this, stop doing that, stop doing this, take this medication, go on metformin, take Ozempic, take tirzepatide, take Mounjaro, take whatever it is. But above all, don't change the way you're eating. And now people have shown that you can reverse things with keto. Everything. Now, some of you have heard that I've been diagnosed with Parkinson's. And when I went to my doctor, he told me that the number one thing that I needed to do was change the way I was eating. I told him I eat keto. He said, keto? You're already ahead of the game. That would be ideal, because by eating keto and exercise, you can reverse it and put it off for a really long time. Now, Paul asked, what about seeds such as pumpkin seeds? They are excellent, and they are a big part of Keto 2026 and Keto Forever. So Cynthia says, what do you recommend for macro percentages? I don't. I really don't. I recommend that you get protein, enough protein in grams, pretty much close to what you weigh, and prepare things with healthy oils, and eat lots and lots of vegetables, and you will do just fine. Have protein at every meal, don't overeat, and you will be fine. Paul says high omega-3 products such as flaxseed oil, olive oil, MCT oil, they are all great. They are all part of Keto 2026. We are interested in making sure that absolutely everyone is eating healthy. I'm going to put the link in here in the chat if there's anybody who doesn't have it. There is the link. And it's very interesting because what I did here was I took keto and I totally reversed it. When most people talk about keto, they focus on the foods that you could eat, and they go immediately to the menus and so forth. I did the reverse here. Your weight is not controlled by your belly. Your weight is controlled by your brain. Your brain controls all of the hormones that make you weight. Is Speed Keto 2026 much different than the original? It is entirely different. It is entirely different than the original. They have nothing in common except the name Speed Keto. Speed Keto 2026 comes in two real major parts. There's some bonuses. But the first part is a very detailed thing about what you need to do to obtain ideal health now and into the future. We go through all of the elements in great detail, and we go through every part of the brain and how it affects your diet. Let me ask you a question right now. Here's my challenge question. You can type in your answer. Here's the challenge question. If you continue eating as you are eating now, except you enter a high stress environment, your food doesn't change. The only thing that changes is your stress level. What happens to your weight? Type in what you think. Isabel says it goes up. Paul says it goes up. Anyone else? Don't be shy. No place for shy here. Margie says it goes up. How's that possible? How's it possible that if you eat the exact same way, you just add stress to the recipe, you gain weight? It's because of cortisol. And cortisol is controlled in the brain. All of the parts of your brain are controlling every single hormone in your body. What do you think is responsible for insulin production? Everybody says in the pancreas. Where does the pancreas get the messages from? The brain. So instead of focusing on the belly for the first time, we are focusing entirely on the brain. And so by the time you finish month number 1 of Keto 2026, it will change the way you look at food forever. And I've been seeing testimonials about when people, I recommend spending a week going through the strategy and then going into the tactics. I've been seeing people saying, Down 11 pounds my first week, down 7 pounds my first week. Why? Because you're getting your brain and your hormones in alignment, and literally the weight starts coming off. It's that simple. Why hasn't anyone talked about this yet? I don't know. They're still focusing on food. They're still talking about it. I've been doing a lot of research in dementia, Alzheimer's, and Parkinson's over the past 4 years, and a keto Mediterranean diet seems the most ideal to me at present. Indeed, it is. And I can tell you that all day long, that's all we're studying. What works? What supplements are the best? And the answer is keto. Now, when you get to month number 2, in it, which is entirely different, the meal's different, the whole program is different, we add something else that we're trying to avoid, which is type 3 diabetes. Type 3 diabetes is dementia. And so we focus on that. And Alessandra says, I've been on the program and after 9 days, I am 12 pounds down. 12 pounds, 9 days, that's absolutely exceptional. That this is really that's really just an amazing statistic that people have. Congratulations to you. And that is just the beginning. That is just the beginning. So I posted the link, and I really want you guys to check it out. This is brain first, food second. I'm not going to keep you on here for a long time. If you're serious, if you're having some issues there, or you want to be protected or whatever, you seem very, very well educated. I think that this is going to take you to the next level. This is going to take you to the next level. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. I wish you all a good life and good health. Good night, everyone.